I died. But I didn't see heaven. I didn't see hell either. What I saw was a stage. And on that stage, every scene from my life was playing out again. What made me shudder was this. I didn't remember ever choosing that role. All I knew was I had forgotten who I was. Have you ever wondered, if you died right now, what you would see? Not a light at the end of a tunnel. Not angels calling. Not music drifting down from some celestial realm. But a stage. Yes, a stage. And you wouldn't be in the audience. You'd be the actor, standing under the spotlight, replaying every scene of your life. The question is, do you remember choosing that role? Because I didn't. My name is Eli Grant. I was 40 years old, working as a computer technician for a company in Colorado, just enough to get by. I wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't a good one either. I didn't hurt anyone, didn't scam anyone, and didn't love anyone. I lived the way people call practical, logical, rational, and grounded. I trusted machines, systems, anything you could measure or calculate. I didn't believe in God, didn't believe in an afterlife, and didn't believe in what people called the soul. To me, a human being was just a biological machine. You live, you die, and when the battery runs out, it's over. Simple. I once had a college relationship, but it ended with a betrayal so cold it froze something inside me for good. I learned how to stay silent, how to nod when necessary, how to smile just enough so no one would ask questions. I became good at hiding. I wasn't afraid of loneliness because I believed loneliness was the default state of anyone who saw life. I didn't need anyone to love me, as long as they left me alone. I believe a smart person never lets emotions run the show, because feelings are soft, and soft things can't be programmed. I lived that way for 10 years, one day bleeding into the next, 1 week stretching into what felt like a year, a month becoming a lifetime. I didn't know I was sad. I only knew I wasn't happy. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurting. I wasn't afraid. I thought that was peace. But it was numbness. I called it control. But in truth, it was a prison with no bars. And I was the inmate. My body began to send warnings. Chest pain, insomnia, and sudden spikes in my heart rate. But I ignored them. I told the doctor, "There's nothing to worry about. I'm fine." That was my favorite sentence. And the biggest lie I ever told myself. Until one day, as I stood up from my desk, my head spun like the blood had drained out of it. My heart clenched as if an invisible hand had gripped it tightly. I collapsed, unable to reach for anything. My eyes opened, then closed. My awareness didn't disappear. It simply slipped out of my body like smoke rising from a just extinguished flame. And that was when I entered a world I never believed was real. A place with no time, no shape, no logic, and nothing to hold on to except the part of me I had forgotten for so long. But what truly stunned me wasn't that I had died. It was what I was about to see once I was no longer myself. Who do you think you are? Are you truly living, or just acting out a role you forgot you once agreed to play? The answer would come the moment I stepped through the first doorway of death, where I discovered a truth no one had ever told me in all my 40 years of being alive. I didn't feel pain. There was no explosion, no flash of fire, no screaming like in the movies. Only separation. Like when you remove the batteries from a remote control, it still looks intact, still lies there, but it no longer controls anything. That's what my body was like. Still there, on the floor, in that familiar office, surrounded by glowing computer screens and the steady hum of the printer. But I was no longer inside it. I stood about 2 steps away from my body. I didn't walk, didn't float, didn't fly. I was just there. I had no feet, no eyes, yet I could see. No ears, no skin, yet I could feel. I had no form, but I knew I existed. It was a kind of being unlike anything I had ever known. I called out, but no sound came. I moved, but no one noticed. No one heard. No one saw. No one knew I was there. And then, as if pulled by some unseen force, I began to fall. Not fall in a physical sense. There was no wind, no direction. It was an endless descent, like I was being slowly erased, layer by layer, until there was nothing left to hold on to. I fell into darkness. But not the kind of darkness you see at night. This was something thicker, heavier, colder. It was not just the absence of light. It was a substance, a presence, a darkness that breathed, that watched, that knew I was there. I didn't see its face, but I understood this darkness was not hostile, but it wasn't kind either. It simply was. Inside that darkness, I began to hear something strange. Not a voice, but a question. It didn't come from anywhere, but it echoed through everything as if the universe itself was asking me, "Who are you?" I wanted to say, I'm Eli, a computer technician. But as soon as I thought the words, I realized they meant nothing. There were no computers here. No office. No identity. No one knew who I was, not even me. I began to see images. Not dreams, not flashbacks, but fragments of memory coming alive outside of time, outside of sequence. I saw myself at 10 years old, standing in the backyard, watching my father drive away without once looking back. I saw myself at 23, wiping tears from my girlfriend's face, then turning and walking away without a word. I saw myself in all the small moments, the times I avoided feeling, the glances I never returned, the embraces I pulled away from. Piece by piece, layer by layer, they drifted down like ash into that dense, silent blackness. I wasn't judged, but it was that very silence that made escape impossible. No one scolded me. No one forgave me. There was only truth. And truth, when it's stripped of all its disguises, becomes sharp enough to slice the soul. I began to understand. Every time I chose numbness, I pushed myself further from the one thing I never dared to believe in: love. I didn't believe in it because I feared it. And I feared it because I had once been left behind in silence. I thought death was the end. But it wasn't. It was a giant mirror, forcing me to face myself without masks, without roles, without an audience. Just me and the truth. And when there's nothing left to hold on to, that's when you finally begin to remember who you are. But that was only the opening act of the final play. Because just when I thought I was lost forever in the dark, something strange began to happen. A light appeared, not one that blinded or pushed the darkness away, but one that gently merged with it. And from the deepest place within me, I heard something that made me forget all fear. Someone was calling my name. Not with a voice, but with a feeling so full of love, so complete, that it could only come from the part of myself I had abandoned long ago. I did not walk or fly. I was simply carried forward, as though the path unfolded in response to the soul's meaning. Everything was felt rather than spoken, a knowing without words, like recognizing pain in someone's tears long before they tell you why they are crying. I entered a space filled with a gentle glow, a golden mist through which I could still see, yet everything visible possessed a living essence. Nothing remained a mere outward appearance. Each image held significance, every movement became language, and every instant carried truth. There, I encountered a being of light, not human, not angelic, but a presence of pure awareness that radiated such love I could no longer remain intact, but had to shed every layer of defense. I began to weep, like a child who has believed she is worthless until someone finally embraces her and says she has always been loved. The being asked no questions and offered no lecture. Instead, it opened a realm where my entire life appeared once more, not to be recalled but to be felt, moment by moment. It was as if I were watching a film of my own story, except I suddenly became every character on the screen. I felt the sadness of people I had ignored, the sting of my indifferent words turning into blades that cut first into their hearts and then into mine. I understood that each time we refuse connection, we reenact the role of someone who does not know how to love, even though the soul had written a different part for us. There was no condemnation. I was shown all this so I could understand. I had mistaken myself for the role when I was the playwright. Again I cried like a child remembering she has been dreaming of home, and home is not foundation or walls or roof, but truth and love. Just when I thought I might stay forever in that realm of light, another question echoed, not to interrogate but to remind. Do you wish to return? I believed I had forgotten Earth, yet the soul never forgets, because it knows that sometimes the moment you come closest to the light is the very moment you must go back. I did not answer right away. How could I, when the heart no longer has a shape, only the breath of the soul pulsing in an ocean of primeval feeling? I remained in that field of pure light, held in unconditional love, free of judgment, free of any need to prove myself. In that place, there were no obligations, no deadlines, no one waiting. Only love and being. So why return at all? I did not come back out of duty or unfinished business. I chose to return because, in the deepest moment of light, I sensed a current of life still seeking to flow forward. It felt like a silent invitation, a gentle awareness that my soul still had something left to give, a role not yet lived in full. Then I was shown possibilities, as though my life were a piece of music and I had played only the opening bars. I saw myself sharing this experience, not to convince but to awaken. I saw eyes like mine once were, weary and rational, trusting only what could be measured, and I saw those eyes widen when their souls recognized a long-forgotten truth. I could reach them, not with my hands, but with truth itself. So I said yes, I will go back, not to become someone great, but to live honestly, to live with an open heart, to live as if every person I meet is another fragment of my soul. When I spoke those words, there was no applause, no brilliant burst of light, no choir of angels. A gentle current simply carried me away before I realized I was leaving. Suddenly, I heard machines, voices calling my name, alarms in an emergency room swirling around me. I opened my eyes, and for the first time, I did not just see a hospital ceiling. I saw a sky, a real sky, vast and deep and merciful. I had returned, yet I was no longer the old Eli. I was Eli stepping off the old stage, ready to live the rest of my life as a conscious author of my own story. It took me months to relearn how to walk, and an entire lifetime to relearn how to be present. I began to view everything with new eyes. The tree by my porch was no longer a silent ornament. It was a witness to time, a friend I had passed for years without greeting. Birdsong ceased to be background noise. It became a reminder that life keeps singing even when we are too busy to listen. I did not leave my job, but I changed the way I worked. I did not switch careers, yet I transformed my relationships with every colleague. I started asking about their families, their dreams, their fears, not out of politeness but out of genuine care. I realized that each person is fighting a quiet battle, and sometimes a single listening glance counts as a victory. I shared my story in small places, a corner cafe, an evening class, a circle of older adults who felt their hope fading. Whenever I spoke, it was not to impress, it was to remind them they are not alone, that every hardship carries meaning, that every life, however quiet, plays a precious role in the sacred drama of the universe. I forgave in silence, the father who left, the former lover who closed my heart, and most importantly, myself. I forgave every role I once chose out of fear, and every moment I failed to love. People ask, Eli, are you sure what you saw was real? I smile and answer, if it helps me live better, love deeper, and act with sincerity, then it is more real to me than anything. If you are watching this and ever feel your life is small or your role is faint, remember you are not the role, you are the writer. You still have time to choose another part, and it is never too late to begin again.